everyone and welcome back to Gigi's Kitchen, and if you are new here then hello and welcome. My name is Alexis and I post 2 videos a week on a Tuesday and a Thursday at 7 AM. So if you love a recipe video like this one and you want to see more, then please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And now I'm going to share with you how to make my delicious salmon and anchovy fish cakes. As I just mentioned, today I want to share with you how to make my delicious salmon and anchovy fish cakes. Now this recipe is really easy to do, and in the past I have made a video about making salmon fish cakes, but one day I decided to add anchovies to my salmon fish cakes and the results were so tasty. It just gave the fish cake that slight bit of saltiness that I love. So I decided to write a recipe for my blog, and I will link my blog in the description box below as well. And today we're going to be having these for our dinner this evening, and of course while I was making them I thought I'd share the recipe with you. So here is how to make my delicious salmon and anchovy fish cakes. Firstly, I'm going to preheat my oven to 200 degrees. My oven has preheated, so I'm going to put my salmon into the oven and I'm going to cook this for about 12 to 15 minutes, or until the salmon starts to flake away from itself, and I'll show you that in a little while. As you can see, I've put a large pan of water on a high heat on my hob, and I'm just going to add a bit of salt to that water, like so, and then I'm going to add my carrots. So I have peeled and sliced roughly into about 1 centimetre pieces, 1 whole carrot, and I'm just going to add the carrot to the base of this pan, and I'm going to cook this for a couple of minutes and then I'll add in my potatoes. But I want the carrots to cook first because the carrots are slightly harder than the potatoes, and at the end of this recipe, or the end of this video, I'm going to mash everything together, so I want the carrots to be slightly softer, otherwise it's really hard to mash them. So I'm just going to put those in for a couple of minutes now. Now I'm going to add in my potatoes to the boiling water. I'm actually going to turn the water down slightly because it is quite hot. So I have peeled and cut into like 1-inch cubes, I'd say, about 800 grams of potato. So I'm going to add that to my pot like so, and then I'm going to put the lid back on, and I'm going to bring these to the boil, and then I'll let them simmer for about 10 minutes. Now I want the potatoes to be knifeful and not forkful. Knifeful just basically means they will fall off the knife easily. You don't want them too soft. You want the carrots slightly softer, but you don't want the potatoes too soft because you want to form a cake, like a potato cake, out of them. So you do need them slightly harder. So I'm only going to cook these for 10 minutes. While the potatoes are cooking, I'm going to cook off the spring onions. So I've put a small frying pan and I'm going to put that onto a high heat, and then I'm going to add a little bit of oil to the base of that pan, and I'm going to leave that pan to heat up. The pan is starting to get hot, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to fry off my spring onions. So I have chopped the tops and the tails, or the bottoms, from the spring onions, and I've cut these into like 1/2 centimetre pieces. I've used a whole bunch of spring onions. I'm making this as if I'm serving 4 people. Ted will eat probably a large fish cake, and then I'm going to have one of these as leftovers tomorrow. So I am making this as if it serves 4, not just me, Ted, and it's not just for me, Ted and Howard. I'll be having one of these as leftovers tomorrow. So I'm going to fry these spring onions in this pan now until they start to soften. The spring onions have started to soften, as you can see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set these aside and I'm going to leave them to cool. The fish is cooked, and I can tell because the flesh is quite easily flaking away from itself, and I don't mind it all flaky because I'm going to be putting it into a fish cake later on. So that's my fish done, and I'm going to set this aside and leave this to cool as well. The potatoes have cooked, and I'm pleased to say that they are knifeful. They are falling off the knife quite easily, as you can see. So I'm going to remove these from the heat and drain them through a colander, and I'm going to leave these to cool as well. As you can see, everything is cooked, and I have transferred my potatoes from the saucepan through a colander, and then I drained all the water off, and then I put the potatoes back into the saucepan again, and I'm going to use that as my bowl to mash with. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the skin from the salmon, because nobody really likes the skin apart from me, and it probably wouldn't taste that great in fish cakes. And I'm going to pop the salmon into the saucepan with the potatoes. So I'm going to remove the skin from each piece of salmon, like so. As I said earlier in this video, my son will probably eat a whole fish cake, to be honest. He loves salmon, and he does eat a whole piece of salmon when given it at dinner, so I know that he's going to eat this. He's only 9, but he does love fish. 8, sorry. 9 in August. So yeah, he does love his fish, which pleases me a lot. So I'm just removing the salmon from the skin, like so. And once that's done, I'm going to add the other ingredients. I'm going to add in the spring onions now that I cooked off earlier. So if you remember, I cooked off about 7 to 8 spring onions, a bunch of spring onions, and I'm just going to add those to the bowl as well, like so. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in my anchovies. So I had a small tin of anchovies, and I'm just going to add them all in. So that's about 8 anchovies. If you're using a jar and you want to know how many to use, it was about 8 in the tin. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just simply going to mash all of these ingredients together until everything is basically mashed together. And as always, I've forgotten to add my salt and pepper to this, so I'm going to add a big pinch of salt, and then not too much pepper, but a little bit. My son isn't the greatest pepper fan, but I am trying to get him used to it. So yeah, I'm just going to continue mashing these ingredients together. I'm now going to form the fish cakes, and what I've done is I've dampened my hands so that the fish cake doesn't stick to my hands too much. And I have also put some browned flaxseed into a bowl, and I'm going to form a fish cake, and then I'm going to put it into the flaxseed. I'm using flaxseed instead of breadcrumbs. I have a slight gluten intolerance, and I find that I can digest flaxseed a lot easier than I can breadcrumbs. So I'm using this, but you can use breadcrumbs if you want to, or an alternative of your choice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide the mixture into 4, like so. And I'm going to pat it down like I do with my burgers. And then I'm going to, as I said, dip that until the fish cake is covered in the flaxseed. I think I put about 4 tablespoons of flaxseed into this bowl. I may not need that much, but I've done it now. So I'll just show you that again. So I'm going to grab a big piece of the potato, like so. And then I'm going to pat it down and make it into a burger shape or a patty shape. And then I'm going to dip it into the flaxseed like so. And I'm going to put this onto my plate. I'm going to go and wash my hands, and I'm going to continue to make these fish cakes. I've finished making the fish cakes, so I'm going to put these into the oven for a couple of hours now. If you wanted to make these in advance of a meal, then you can, and that's the great thing about these fish cakes. You could make them in the morning and leave them in the fridge for the whole day, and then just cook them off in the evening. You can also make them in advance and store them in the freezer as well. So if you wanted a really quick midweek meal, you could make these at the weekend and then just store them in the freezer for the midweek meal. So now, as I said, I'm going to put these into the fridge for a couple of hours and then I will cook them off later. It's almost dinner time in our house, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to preheat my oven to 200 degrees. The oven has preheated and I have put the fish cakes into the baking tray, and I've added a little bit of oil to the top and spread it across the tops of the fish cakes. And I'm now going to put these into the oven for about 20 to 25 minutes, or until they go golden brown. As you can see, the fish cakes are a lovely golden brown colour, so I'm going to serve these with some fried spinach, and that is our dinner done. That's how you make my delicious salmon and anchovy fish cakes, and that recipe I will link in the description box below for you. As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be having these for my dinner this evening and they smell so good, I can't wait to eat them. So for now, that's it from me. Thank you so much for watching. Please feel free to give me a big thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and please feel free to leave any comments below, and please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. See you all soon. Bye.